Yo, what is up here? To, Today is the day to do probably the greatest discussion of all time. We're going to be talking about Toriko, the manga series, and probably the biggest episode, the biggest chapter ever released in Toriko. I know I already did a review on the chapter, but here's the thing. This is going to be a discussion on the entire manga as a whole, and one huge point that just it will blow your mind if you don't know this already about Toriko and the latest chapter. So here's the deal here. I'm assuming you guys have read up until the latest chapter of Toriko. As of so far, let it be known that since December, which was about almost 3 or 4 weeks ago, there's yet to be another issue of Toriko released. Why? It's probably on break. But that last chapter was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. And what can I even say? What can I even say about that chapter? I don't think I did it justice, because it deserved a live reading, but I didn't know how ridiculous it was. And so I have to get to the most important point to begin with. And forgive me if the battery dies during the middle of this video, but spoiler alert, let it be known. So here is how it works. Okay, last chapter, the first half of the chapter was pretty crappy. You know, it was Toriko being cheered up by all the people that he'd helped survive or discover their favorite food, or continue living, or feel inspired not to kill themselves or whatever. The next half of the chapter was where it all changed. So he's re-inspired. He jumps into the gourmet world, and in that chapter we find out how retardedly crazy, how retardedly outclassed everything has been up until that point. Because there was once a point when main characters and villains in Toriko were bragging about how they had taken on capture levels of 20 or 30 or 40 and 100. And in this chapter alone, we get a span of the gourmet world. And I loved it so much, because one thing that really draws me to manga, and it has to be done well, and that is the fact where you can pretty much, where the author makes it so that it's like, hey, you thought that was strong, what about this? And then the reader he's just flabbergasted. And then the next chapter, you thought that was strong, well, how about this? And it's always this one up effect that is so hard to execute when you keep doing it, because like, how can you really portray how strong something is? Like, there's eventually a limit. And I think the author of Toriko does this so well, because we all know there's a limit. I mean, DBZ pretty much almost hit the limit. Then DBGT sort of distorted it to the point where you can sneeze and blow up a planet. But regardless, I feel like what the key behind it is making it so that you just have to slightly do it so it's a huge difference in comparison, but you're not jumping ladders so quickly that it's like 1 second you're fighting karate or whatever, and then the next you're sneezing and blowing up planets. And he does it just well enough. So basically, long story short, what happens is Toriko jumps into the gourmet world. He throws out his flying fork. He's obviously evolved or leveled up, you could say, with his glowing new arms and stuff. So he throws out the fork. And remember, last time he went into the gourmet world, he was screwed up. He was screwed up hard. He couldn't. He had trouble breathing there. he was constantly being attacked by the environment. There was like fire and wind and water and so forth, and he couldn't even survive, and Jirou saved his life pretty much. And it begs so many questions. Like, it all makes sense now. Like, why Jirou had to go into Gourmet world in his, like, why was, like, when he went to rescue Toriko from the Gourmet world, he was in his youthful form again. His hair was black. He looked really young again. It was like, what the heck? What's going on? And it was never explained. And it's still not explained completely, but it's like, it makes more sense now. Jirou has to be in his prime. He has to do something to push him to his prime. Because when he showed up in the Colosseum, he was still in his old form. So I'm like, what the heck's going on? Maybe his youthful form has nothing to do with his strength. And now I feel like the deal is that Jirou didn't treat the ordeal as big an ordeal as he would in the Gourmet world. And it all makes sense now because you guys know what happened. It was just ridiculous. Toriko throws out his flying fork. He was like, last time my fork didn't even reach you. And he shoots past all the blasts that this freaking dinosaur was shooting out at him. And it gets to him, and the dinosaur dodges. He has to dodge it. So that's good. Because we'll find out very soon later that another animal doesn't even have to dodge it. He can take it to your chest, and it's pretty much like a fly, or it's less pestering than a fly. It's like to me probably like a blast of minor air. Anyhow, the flying fork zooms off still, and apparently it's Toriko's flying fork actually materializes a real fork eventually. So it's flying still. It hits another monster that has a power level that's beyond that dinosaur. So in terms of power levels go, like we know Midora has that huge dragon with like a 700 power level. Then we got, you know, everything else is below that pretty much as of so far. So I mean, I think Toriko himself, I mean, he has yet to take out anything that great. He took out the 4 beasts, but he needed 3 others to do it. And that 4 beast power level was like, it was nothing. From what I could tell, it was like 500 or something retarded. So the dinosaur in the Gourmet world had like a 200. Then it passed that dinosaur, ran into a bear, and obviously all these animals have like really elaborate names, not just bear. The bear dodges, and it shows its capture level, which is about like 500 or something. And at this point, we have gotten to a point where it's like capture levels are no longer, they're simply put there to show you the difference in strength. So from there, it passes the bear, and it hits, I believe what happens is it hits a retardedly huge like battle tortoise or whatever. And it is huge. It's like its leg is thicker than all these animals combined. And it's this huge like stronghold. It's like bigger than a huge city. And like its shell has like a giant armored city on top of it. And I'm like, holy crap. And that one had like 800, 900 capture level. I'm just, you know, ballparking here. That's not the point. But you can see where it goes. It continues on. And from there, it bounces off this guy, this tortoise. The fork flies in the air. It gets caught by this huge demon beast with like a 2000 capture level, right? And it's already gone into insanity. These monsters are beyond anything. Like, they could probably sneeze and take out the human world if they wanted to, but they're just not interested. And here's one key fact that most people fail to notice. The beast was standing on volcanoes, and it was making the volcanoes look like that small compared to its feet. So I'm like, what the heck's going on? And then all of a sudden a giant freaking like foot comes down that's bigger than that entire beast, demon beast, and that beast like starts screaming and runs away. And it's this huge elephant beast, which is like a 4,000 capture level. And on top of that, you see a flying like pterodactyl. And this one has like a... No. Okay, the elephant had like a 2,000. Then this one has a 4,000. And then we see the battle wolf, the matured battle wolf with a 7,000. So there's that whole joke with the, oh, it's still not over 9,000. But it can keep going on, which is what I like about it. Despite the tremendous difference, the author is making it so very well so that he can continue it on. So that in the future, we can progress until it's like 10,000 capture level, 1,000, 100,000, a million capture level, and so forth. And basically that whole thing was just, that whole scenario was to show, it was to show the readers that, hey, Toriko is still nothing. The gourmet world is huge. They have no idea what's planned. The Blue Nitro, they're not that all that either. Medora and his crew, not all that. Neo, his crew, not all that. That is until I figured this thing out. So this is like, for those of you who waited until now and listened in, here is the whole thing. And I got the Wikipedia page loaded. This is going to blow your mind, okay? So we're mostly at a point now where we're like, all that we have known up until this point is pure crap. Toriko is weak. Toriko is useless. He's so weak. What do we have planned? And Starjin, who barely beat Toriko, is so weak. Well, here is what we have to say. I have the Ashurosaurus page loaded up right now. Yeah, let's just get to it. The Ashurosaurus was the second to third last page in the latest chapter. It was the capture level of 4,000, the second highest capture level we have seen in the series explicitly, next to the Battle Wolf. And we're assuming the other 7 gods of the gourmet world have similar capture levels around 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. So that pretty much sums up the entire world of Toriko. And unless we go to outer space or something else evolves, that's pretty much the highest we're getting. Well, that's what we can assume, right? But here's the thing that might it might make you think WTF. The Ashurosaurus is knocking Master Jirou's meat dish on his full course menu with a capture level of 4,220. Does that not change your entire perspective? Jirou is no one to be messed with. He is treating this 4,000 level capture beast as nothing more than a side dish, which just shows you the power of Setsuno and Jirou. So no one can really battle them other than maybe Medora and like a few others, Joa. And so I'm gonna finish this video up with just reading out the rest of this guy's this wiki page. I found this via a comment on a video. In Setsuno's full course, it is prepared roasted. I'm going to skip past the appearance. As food, the meat of the Ashurosaurus is a legendary delicacy of unmeasurable status. So Setsuno's dining hall is where this meat can be eaten. It is the only location in the human world. However, reservations and orders of said ingredient must be made years in advance due to the rarity in which Setsuno opens up her restaurant and calls Jirou to get the ingredients. Are you kidding me? I love it. I love it. This whole fact that Setsuno, this old granny, has just constantly, just casually been sitting there with Komatsu and just, you know, casually talking to him when they're taking on capture level beasts of such rarity, such power. And on top of that, it's like these humans are just so ungrateful for the power needed to get this sort of food that Setsuno is serving in a restaurant. And on top of this, all of this, I mean, that's pretty much saying that, like, technically, Jirou has almost conquered the gourmet world in a way. And so he's now spending his days drinking beer, I guess. It boggles my mind. And to think that Jirou was not the oldest, though he looked like the oldest brother, is that to say that Ichiryu was even stronger than Jirou? Because Jirou always said that Ichiryu always let Jirou win, even though he could beat Jirou. And he didn't do it to Toriko because he believed Toriko could one day surpass Ichiryu. So I truly believe, you know, this is why the manga is named Toriko, and I like how they stick to their roots. Toriko is going to become the strongest Bishokuya, just like Komatsu said. It's all coming back together, and he even has he has a baby form of one of the strongest beasts of the entire universe as his pet, his loving pet. That is ridiculous. So here's the history of the Asherosaurus. It was first mentioned by Coco when he listed the ingredients in Jirou's full course. And then it was in the Century Soup arc, once again as part of Setsuno's full course, which he shares with Jirou and sometimes serves at her dining hall. The Cooking Festival arc, a live flying Asherosaurus is seen flying the skies of the gourmet world over a massive Ficasto font. It was letting out a mighty roar as it continued its trek. This was likely caused by fear after seeing a battle wolf. So this is ridiculous, and it's still nowhere near the battle wolf strength. This makes me wonder if Jirou's knocking ability really did knock out the entire world at that point. I don't think it did, because again, we saw the other fights in the other areas and it didn't affect it. So I feel like despite it saying that Jirou's effect knocked the entire world, it only affected those in the Colosseum. As to why Jirou's ability, like why, if Jirou was so strong, why did he just not take out Joa, and from there just like he ended up unknocking everyone because of the meteor spice. But if he's strong enough to take on a 4220 capture level, couldn't he have just blocked all the meteor spice and defeated Joa along with Setsuno's help? If they can take out a 4220 beast, I mean, I doubt meteor spice is stronger than that. So I think it's a small plot hole, but I think maybe he was shaken by the fact that his mentor was alive again or whatever, and because of that his mentor just escaped on the spot before he could do anything. It raises a lot of questions, and I'm curious to see what Jirou does from here on. Maybe he just wants to live the rest of his life drinking alcohol. I don't know. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe.